Welcome to Light Warrior Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Karan Kan, the #1 best-selling author of Guide to Healing Chronic Pain, A Holistic Approach, Evolutionary Healer, Navigating the Clickety-Clack, How to Stay Peace-Filled in a Seemingly Toxic World. And as of last week, Sensitivity is Your Superpower. And that's a book helping sensitive souls honor and hone and harness their gift, their sensitivity gift, as a superpower. And you get to learn, how to connect to zero point, learn divine muscle testing, transformational telepathy, perception, kung fu, weather magic, and so much more. And if you're interested to get some help and support, being your sensitive soul and your sensitive soul journey, you can get on my mailing list, get the free freebie at sensitivesoulguide.com. And that is the Sensitive Soul Empowerment Guide, 3 ways of navigating your way to more peace, positivity, and personal power so you can live the life of your dreams and fulfill your mission. And my goal here in the show is to help you manifest the life of your dreams, whether that's radiant health, prosperity, loving relationships, or simply peace of mind. And thank you so much for being here. And if you love what you hear, please subscribe to this podcast. My special guest today, Von Galt, actually helped me get the Sensitivity is Your Superpower book to #1 international best-selling. And we're going to have a really great conversation today because some of the things that she deals with and has written an amazing book called Buddhist Mandalas, Explore Parallel Realities with Sacred Geometry, is right up the alley of most of my tribe who are very, very interested in alternate realities, parallel universes, extraterrestrials, spirits, all this kind of stuff, and definitely sacred geometry. So, a lot of folks, especially the sensitives, are having their 6 senses activate or even amplify and are, wondering whether this is part of their spiritual awakening journey, what to do with all these new so-called gifts that sometimes can cause some problems if they don't really know what's happening, and how that all works into the whole, how are we going to the 5th dimension, how are we evolving, and some of the other things like our abilities to feel things that other people can't, or the average person can't feel, or hear things. Maybe people are hearing voices and think they're going crazy, things like that. And so Vaughn is going to share with us her and share with us a little bit more about this beautiful book that she has written as well. Just a little bit about her. She's has a degree from the University of Washington, her master's degree from Westwood College of Technology. And aside from writing books that she's very passionate about, she works in IT and lives in Seattle with her husband and 2 young kids. And you can find out more about her and her book at merkabachakras.com. She also has an amazing podcast and YouTube channel. So let me just spell that for everyone. Merkabachakras.com is MERKABACHAKRAS.com. Welcome, Vaughn, to the show.
Hi. Well, thank you for having me. I'm so delighted.
Yeah, I'm delighted you're here, too. And thank you so much for supporting my book. I'm pleased to be able to support yours.
Oh, yes. I love promoting different energy healing modalities, and that's actually one of the gifts in Buddhism that is part of your awakening and ascension journey is energy healing.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Now, before we get into the kind of the meat potatoes of your book, I'm just going to let people know that if they want to ask you a question about their own awakening and they're live on the show, the number to call in is 818-514-1190, and then hit 1 so we know your hand's up. Again, 818-514-1190, or you could type in a comment or question in the chat, and those 2 ways you can communicate with Vaughn and myself today. And Vaughn, maybe you can share with us kind of like what's your journey? Like, because most kids don't grow up thinking about parallel realities or sacred geometry or Buddhism. So share a little bit about how you got to where you are right now.
Yeah. So you're right. Most kids don't envision this is what they're going to be doing, is talking about metaphysics and parallel realities and consciousness and all of that. But basically, I'm Laotian, and I was born and raised in the Buddhist tradition. So it's just a natural part of my upbringing. And my family took us to a lot of different monasteries that they would participate in and help fund the construction of, and different things as well. And oftentimes, like many children in these different Buddhist temples, I didn't really want to sit and listen to the basic dharma talks about how to how not to be a mean person in this life, so that you don't create imbalance in your life and spend the rest of your life trying to undo the imbalance that you create, and maybe possibly the next lifetimes that you do have trying to undo the imbalance in your chakras that you had created previously. So I kind of got that basic lesson. And so very, very early on, what I started doing was kind of branching off like curious kids and reading and studying the art history in the murals, in the library, in the books. And obviously, if you have a little girl kind of nosing her nose into these books and wondering about this and that, there's always going to be a student monk who's going to be like, oh, this is different. Do you have any questions? And so I kind of got my own advanced studies in basic Buddhism, and much of it was very metaphysical, very beyond the basics that most people understand about Buddhism, which is the basic Dharma talks. So that's kind of how I got into it, and I love all the stories about the different master teachers like Bodhidharma, Kuan Yin, Tara, lots of wonderful female Buddhas with wonderful six senses, Yeshua, which in the West they would call him Jesus, but we call him Isa, and just so many more. And so I love all the different stories of their six senses and how they're able to overcome their dharma or reality, and you just learn so much more from that. So I got my own interesting understanding of Buddhism and metaphysics and consciousness. And I didn't think anything of it. So as I was growing up, going to college, this was over 20 years ago, the Dalai Lama and many prominent monks and nuns in the tradition started an initiative to pair up with academia in the West and around the world to study the effects of mindfulness, meditation, the effects of compassion, and all these different things that we've been documenting and scribing in our different monastic institutions for over 2,500 years. So they just wanted to know how much of this stuff will still meet up with the current understanding of science and medicine, and how much of it needs to be clarified. You know, there are some fuzzy areas that need to be clarified. And so I followed that work. And when I followed that work for the last 20 plus years, I ended up finding out that much of it is true. It wasn't folklore. So what ended up happening is all that material I put into this book, which is book 1 of Buddhist Mandalas, and I'm just about to finish book 2, which is Buddhist Mandalas, Christ's Consciousness of a Multidimensional Merkaba. So we get into your 5th dimensional Merkaba. But yeah, so I put all the information in here, and everything I say is substantiated with science, which is really, really nice. And so for people who are really left brain, they can connect to it. People who are right brain, they can connect to it. So there's lots of different ways to see the Dharma. And the funny thing is, growing up, a lot of the monks would ask me, oh, you have a mandala that is of a teacher. Do you want to teach us something? And I, as a little girl, would say, absolutely not. I don't know what you're talking about. But what they were delighted to find out later on, now after I wrote this book and did the scientific research, I had my mandala or my voice image by science, and it has the 8-wheel rod of Dharma. 8-wheel wheel of Dharma. It has the lines at the end of the spokes, like actual lion heads in my vocal DNA. It has the 12 nanandas, which is the 12 intersecting layers that cause, in Buddhism, the belief of reincarnation to come back into the game again. So it has all the basic elements of Buddhism in my vocal DNA. So the monks growing up were very delighted to find out that I finally realized that I do have the knowledge to teach about the Dharma. And so that knowledge is brought forth in Buddhist Mandalas and many more Buddhist books that I will be writing as well. And that's how I got into this.
Exciting. Yeah, well, you know, for people that are not as familiar, and I'm not very deeply familiar either with Buddhism, although I think my grandmother, had those beliefs, although I didn't see her that often, and she would just be, in Chinese we call bai sun, in front of this picture and with incense and bowing, and I was like, I don't know what she's doing. And I grew up with my parents both being, one was Protestant, one was Catholic. And so we didn't really hear too much about Buddhism. Maybe you could define some of the terminology that we often hear about, but maybe don't fully understand, like dharma, like wheels, like mandalas, like karma. That's a very controversial, it seems, energy that people are discussing right now. I had a conversation with Source not that long ago, and it was related to what was going on in the world and the Ascension process. And I heard there's no such thing as karma, and I'm like, yes, there is. And there's like this little mini argument between me and God, But it was like that it's not what we think it is.
Right.
And that
so
the karma doesn't have to be like what people think it is, like some sort of punishment. So maybe we can start from scratch, and you can explain these terms to us.
Right. So let's start with karma. So karma is basically imbalance, unbalanced energy. That's basically it, unbalanced energy. So like if you put a pebble in the water, it's going to create a ripple until it balances itself out. It's just energy trying to balance it out. That's karma. Everybody thinks karma is always a bad thing. There's also good karma. It's like cause and effect. So what you put out, you get back. And in these higher dimensions, these higher energies coming into Earth even further, what you put out, you're going to get back tenfold. So what you put out, hopefully you want back tenfold. So if you send a lot of love out, you send a lot of compassion out, you send a lot of healing out, you're going to get that back in tenfold. And that's good because you can always have an abundance of love. That's never going to tear you apart. On the flip side, if you create a lot of chaos and you self-create a lot of chaos and you put a lot of that kind of energy out, it's going to come back to you tenfold in these higher energies. And negative energies, it is destructive. That's just the nature of negative energy. And that's really what karma is. It's just cause and effect.
Okay, great. So like some people will say, well, is that like, law of attraction? What you vibrate or resonate comes back to you and shows you, or reflects back to you, what's happening.
Yeah. Law of attraction, manifestation techniques, all of these terms these modern terms are just different ways to understand how energy works. It's just cause and effect.
Well, I know there's certain people
there's no good or bad. There's no good or bad. It's just how
thank you.
energy works.
Right, and some people think when we think about positive and negative, that there's a judgment, and I think that comes from religious, certain religious ways that we are taught, and I was taught to feel guilty. I don't think they necessarily meant to do that, but when I grew up and very religious, it was like I felt guilty for doing anything what I considered wrong. Look at an ant sideways, oh my God,
Yeah.
And so
well, let me address that.
Very guilty.
Right. And that's very common in Western traditions. In Buddhism, it's all about lessons. It's about learning learning and growing from the lessons so that you learn not to repeat the cycles that cause you the experiences that you don't want to experience. So you learn and you grow from them. And some lessons are very hard because it depends on the person. Some people need really hard lessons because they just don't learn. Some people only need the wisdom teachings, which is one of the three gifts that was given to Isa by the three wise men. since it's Christmas time, I'm going to bring some Christmas stuff in there. But
Sure.
wisdom teaching, some people, all they need is to see somebody else go through something or hear a story and learn the lesson and go, that I don't want to experience, so I will not create that for myself. And that's a highly evolved soul that can learn from the wisdom teachings. Others need the hard knocks. They need to learn through muscle memory. They're all lessons so that you learn how to create your dharma, which is a Buddhist word for reality, the nature of reality, of how you create reality through your consciousness, through your psyche, because that's all there is your mandala, it's your consciousness, it's your energy field. So how you create that, and they're not punishments. And I know a lot of people, and this is the concept of reincarnation and creating your dharma, a lot of people really, really have issue with that, especially in the West, because they don't want anything bad to ever happen to anybody. Right. They don't want anything bad to happen. They don't want anybody to suffer, and that's idyllic. However, sometimes those bad things that happen to people are what causes them to grow into a diamond. It's the pressure that pushes them to evolve. Without that pressure, you will never have diamonds.
That is true. That is true.
And we're all growing into, our own radiant mandalas. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, that's really well explained, and I think it releases, at least for me and many of us that grew up very religious, that guilt and shame about not being perfect, and just thinking we're going to get punished, because I know there was definitely a lot of that in some of the Western biblical texts about God punishing so and so and so and so, and obviously it's a man-made interpretation of whatever story. Right. Was being told, but I more resonate with what you're talking about, and the Buddhist way of sharing that is lessons in evolution. That makes more sense to me.
Right. There are no, and the other thing also is, and this gets into the kind of the advanced stuff as well, as you kind of see the wisdom teachings and you see the way the Dharma creates itself and how you create the Dharma. The other thing is your ego. That is the only thing that is the equivalent of a demon or a hell or a devil. There is no such thing in consciousness. It is your ego going out of control that is creating your own manifestations to punish yourself, self-punish yourself. Think about that. Okay? The devil is the ego. It's a metaphor. The Western religions that took that metaphor turned it into what it is known in the West now as an actual thing. And because these people who have these beliefs in hell and the devil are not aware that they create their own dharma through their consciousness, they are creating their own manifestations for self-punishment.
Yeah, it seems like the more I go on this road, the more it seems to me like exactly what you're talking about. And it's funny because I know in some areas, not just necessarily religious, I see sometimes on Facebook here and there, about Satan this or that, and the funny thing is, this people can co-create or singly create, I suppose, whatever they choose to, not even knowing that they're choosing to do that. So it's like, so somebody asked me, so wait, I thought this being that was co-created of Lucifer, Satan, whatever, you said that this being is already healed. I said, yeah. I said, so what's all the Satan stuff about? I said, well, the energy's still there. You can recreate it anytime you want.
Yeah, you can recreate the garbage anytime you want. Yeah.
Anytime. Yeah. You want to trash it up and say, that the devil made me do it, whatever. I'm like, okay. I mean, the energy's available. But they're, I of course get a lot of flack for saying that, that Satan's healed, but,
yeah, because they don't want that. They don't want to hear that, because then they have to take responsibility for their
Yes.
consciousness and their own manifestations and creations. Everybody don't, and this is the hard thing, and a lot of people in Buddhism tradition as well struggle with their own dharma. That's why most of the temples, all they do is talk about the basics, 1, 2, 3, of how not to be a douchebag to each other, because we just don't learn the basics. It's so basic.
Well, we're douchebags to ourselves.
We're douchebags. We're the worst to ourselves.
Oh my
and
gosh.
our loved ones. We don't need to create our own we don't need our ego to create our own demons in hell. We create it for ourselves just fine. Give ourselves some credit. We do a wonderful job creating our own suffering and not learning from it.
Yeah. And on some level, sometimes we think we deserve it, and a conscious mind was like, no, I'm a victim, right? But really, that in and of itself is that recreating that energy of punishment, that it's not necessary. I think that's what God was trying to explain to me, when I was asking about karma and meaning negative karma and so on and so forth. And because people will look, and I know you know this too, and you've observed this, is that people will say a faction will judge another faction and say, oh, they're creating a lot of negative karma by doing this and that and this and that, right? Almost like, I hate to say it, but almost waiting for the other shoe to fall, almost wanting the other to suffer for the bad things they're doing, whether it be the elite or the Illuminati or whoever it is, pharmaceuticals,
that's
whatever
the
they're
newest
judging.
one. That is the newest one.
Yeah, so share a little bit about
the
perspective on that, and that I think that's what God was trying to tell me, that there is no such thing as that.
Yeah, you just hit it right on there, Karen. Because once people get over, okay, I got over my fear of the devil and hell as a manifestation of self-punishment. Once they get over that, they move on to the next. They recreate a whole nother thing to self-punish themselves, so they don't take responsibility for anything. So it's like, oh, it's all these conspiracies that are holding me down. It's these conspiracies that are making my relationships horrible. That's making me do that infidelity, making me take those drugs, making me not go to work and pay my bills. It's all these people in these conspiracies that are holding me down. That's the newest thing. And so at some point, when are you going to look in the mirror and really look at your whole life? Many monks do. Like, look in the mirror and see that all the things you're complaining about, you self-created for a lesson for you to learn. Because you only give power to, if you're the one that's giving power to others. And so you're taking away your own power. And the dharma, the reality is your own, and you create that. So, the whole thing of, the whole tribal thing of, I'm going to wait for this faction to fall. Another perspective is, who cares about all the other factions? Just focus on yourself and making your life and your dharma the best experience you can right now. And let them learn their lessons and grow through their lessons the way they want to, because there are multiple ways to bake a cake. Some people use the microwave, some people use the oven, some people put it in a fire pit. The cake is delicious at the very end of the day, So, and there's and in Buddhism and in many Eastern philosophies, there are many ways in which you can create the Dharma. There's many energy healing modalities. There's many wisdom teachers, from shamanic to Buddhism to the Vedas to just you name it. It's because there are different people. And because there are different people, there are different ways to create the Dharma. So who cares if there's 50,000 different ways to do it? At some point, they're all going to get there. So find the one that works for you and create that way. And don't focus on everybody else's, struggles, because those struggles are for them to learn from. And that's what we keep bringing up over and over again. That's the basics. We're just talking about the basics again.
Yeah, the basics is it's difficult, myself included, to stay out of other people's business. To really keep that focus on ourselves.
Yeah, you care about them so much. You care. You want to help people. You want to help relieve the suffering so much, and I get that. One of the lessons that the master teacher Kuan Yin, the Chinese Buddha Kuan Yin, is famous for is staying behind to help people and then go through the final doorway with the rest of humanity, because she cares about every single one of them, and she thinks that maybe her parents will reincarnate, and she wants to bring them with her. So, anyways, the thing is, sometimes, like I said earlier, some people really need the hard knocks. They need the tough lessons, muscle memory, in order to learn not to recreate the same bad habits that caused the experience that they say they don't want to experience. And so sometimes, in some cases, if you love them, you have to let them fall. You have to let them pick themselves up, and you have to let them grow. It's a hard lesson.
It is a hard lesson. Well, and I wanted to address this because you might get a little chuckle out of this. So growing up, my mom would say, and this is talk of, we were talking about wisdom teachings earlier, and the more so-called what we would judge as enlightened souls don't necessarily have to go through all the hard knocks in order to learn the lesson. They can learn through, seeing and observing what others do, and it's maybe a more sophisticated way of doing it. So my mom used to say, learn from others' mistakes. Okay, now I know sometimes you might think, well, this might be a distortion, but she's like, learn from others' mistakes. Don't make mistakes. Learn from other people's mistakes. So her version was, other people's mistakes would be like divorcing someone. Okay, I'm just giving you a solid, example of that, right? Well, I got really, really sick, and I needed to divorce my husband, but fought that because I felt that was wrong and that was evil and that was bad to divorce. Like, once you're with someone, that's it, the end of story. It's black and white. There's no forgiveness, right? So she was like, well, learn from other people's mistakes. And I was like, she was pushing me not to get a divorce from that perspective. And then there's another perspective I was learning in my own growth and evolution. It was like, sometimes people have to have their own experiences, and to be responsible. So I could listen to my mom and go, well, I'm not going to get a divorce because that's going to mean that my life is horrible afterwards. Or I could say, okay, I'm going to go for what my heart tells me to do right now, because whatever I've done in the past has not been working. Okay. So I'm going to go get that divorce and be 100% responsible for whatever happens after that. And so I need to learn my own lessons and not just go by, learning what other people supposedly have done wrong and have a bad life after divorcing, right? So I did my divorce and realized, oh my gosh, I'm now able to access my true self, my true joy, and have a, great future relationship and that kind of stuff. So I absolutely had to go through the difficulties of my illness and divorce and everything like that to get to where I am. So maybe you can speak to that learning from other people's mistakes, wisdom, and maybe, whether that's really true what my mom was talking about, but maybe distorted.
It's not black and white. It's not black and white, and it's case by case. So let me ask you this. You're not a drug addict, are you?
Nope.
Okay, and why not? Because you know what that experience is going to be like. You've seen it enough times in other people.
It doesn't serve me. It doesn't create joy.
So you learn,
Yep.
So in that specific case, you learn the wisdom behind seeing that and going, that's not what I want to create for myself. But in the case of your divorce, this was something that it was part of your life plan that you had to go through, and you're better now because of it. So it's not always going to be black and white in every single situation. But you are going to learn things from other people and from different stories and learn, okay, I don't really want to create that for myself. I know I don't want to experience that. And the other thing about divorce, too, especially when in Asian culture, it might be a cultural thing. Because of a stigma, an overall stigma of divorce.
Absolutely.
in some Asian traditions or culture. It's not a tradition; it's a cultural thing. So, but the thing is that if it doesn't work for you and the relationship, because some relationships, just like friendships and other things, they have a lifespan. And if you do hypnosis, like I do hypnosis with my clients, and I found with my clients, through quantum hypnosis, and I do 2 different modalities of quantum hypnosis. I do the Dolores Cannon method, which is QHHT, and I do that in person. And then for my clients who are remote around the world and want me to do hypnosis on them, the other quantum hypnosis I do is BQH, Beyond Quantum Healing, which is developed by Candace. But anyways, and that can be done remote. So I do 2 different quantum hypnosis, and what I found over and over again is each one of my clients, no matter if this is the first lifetime on Earth, or they've had other lifetimes in other planets or other solar systems, or they just came from the spirit world, it doesn't matter what previous experiences that they've had, they each have set up certain things in their life that they are going to go through, and it's part of their learning experience. Mm-hmm. So, but not everyone's going to go through the same thing, because not everyone needs the same lesson, and they're not trying to achieve the same outcome.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And in fact, in my Topacan healing method, we have an evaluation called the soul. Well, we have the soul mission matrix, which is about our foundational soul mission at this time, and then I have another thing called soul experience template, and that one really is about like being a kid in a candy store and going, what do I want to experience in the human realm this time around? And it's like, well, I want to do the fun house and I want to do the roller coaster because I haven't done that before, you know. And the universe helps us can then have the experience that we said we wanted prior to incarnation. And that's my way of interpreting it. And it's been pretty interesting because one of mine in this timeline is compassion, which is which
energy healing is compassion in action.
Yeah, that's right. I love that. And of course, Kuan Yin being one of my guides, you know, definitely resonates that frequency. So it's pretty interesting. And I really bless every, moment of suffering, if you will, of my illness, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, even, feeling suicidal, because of all of that got me to where I am today. Everything, warts and all, ex-husband, everything. I just give so much gratitude for that because of the evolution and the learning. So I'm hoping that other people can experience that too.
Right. And when you were going through your hard knocks, there are always going to be inklings of divine consciousness and your angels and guides and loving spirits around you, giving you little hints and clues. But sometimes when you're in the thick of it, you're so stuck in the pain and the suffering that you can't see the extended hand or the grace that's fallen beside you or anything else. So I get it. It's a learning process. I have been suicidal myself in my early 20s. I had a divorce as well. And I was young, and I didn't, got married young. But anyways, we just grew to be different people, and we divorced, and it really hurt and kind of tore me apart. But one of the things, and I will say this for anybody who's going through a tough time in their life, they're going through one of the difficult times in their life, and they may consider suicide, it's not like they want to kill themselves. It's like, for me, it's like I just wanted the pain to stop. Because every single breath that I took felt like a knife going through my heart. Every breath. Wow. And so every single time I moved my body, it felt like I was pulling boulders apart. That's how much the pain when somebody is suicidal. That's how much pain they're going through. It's it is not because they want to kill themselves. It's because they just want the pain to stop. But the reason why I didn't go forward with it was because I thought about the havoc of how it would affect my friends and my family without me in their life, because I was such an integral part in many of my family and friends' life. I provided them so much positivity. And so anyways, and they were there for me. The people will call and check, but it doesn't matter, because when you're going through that much pain, it's you can't see that right over the horizon. There's the rainbow right through the thick of the dark storm going on.
Yes.
Because all you want to do is stop the pain. But one of my best friends told me, and I remembered this, and I always want to tell everybody, if in this situation, whatever happens, sit on your hands. Sit on those fidgety hands, because those hands are the access points that could cause you to do something that you regret. So if you're in that moment, just sit on your hands and then just pray. Just call in your angels, guides, your grandma, your grandfather that you love, anybody to help you get through this. And you will get through this. But it's not about killing yourself. It's about getting rid of the pain. And the pain will subside. Yes, it was just run its course.
Wow.
But everybody goes through these hard knocks, okay? Everybody does. And if you come out of it, you're stronger and better to help other people.
So is there a Buddhist? Yeah, is there a Buddhist teaching around people or around suicide itself?
It's not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing. There is no opinion on it. Okay? There's a lot, just like any other cases, it's case by case.
Because one of my friends killed himself recently, and his parents, who are very religious, I think Christian religious, would not come to the Catholic service because they said he's going to hell. So I was there, and I didn't see the parents there or the brother. I was sad.
Right. There's a lesson there for the parents. There's a lesson there for everybody of how, like we already discussed, that in Buddhism there is no hell and there is no Satan. They're just our ego's gone astray. And if anybody, I've had clients who have gone through similar things, and they go through hypnosis and they talk to the deceased person themselves. And that person is not in hell. Yep. The person's actually cocooning and getting a lot of love because they struggled with their earthly suffering and issues. And they are going to, at some point, come back and carry on whatever lessons or experiences that they set out for themselves. But to reject love because of fears, that's the lesson.
Yeah. That's pretty profound. What's interesting is that, this is obviously only from my perspective and current understanding, because my understanding changes based on new information, is that there are, some people who, let's just say, their angels allowed them. Allowed isn't the right word, but anyway, to kill themselves because it was necessary for the development and evolution of the others they're in family with, and that they were done with this particular lifetime. And that was kind of a new, awareness of mine, that there would be some sort of concerted effort among the spirits to go, okay, here's the predetermined expiration date, and we're going to allow this to happen so that everyone can evolve, and they're done with their mission in this timeline. Anyway, would love your perspective on this.
Like I said, it's a case by case basis. I had a hypnosis client who, had a suicide, and what was found out in the session was if it wasn't suicide, it was going to get into a car accident anyways. So, there's some things that are planned to happen that are finite, and if you try to avoid it, the universe will find another way to make it finite. Because, if you were meant to have that car accident, whether you stay home or not, something's going to happen to pull you out of the house. You can drive a different way, and it's still going to happen. because that car accident was going to be how you meet the next person that is best in line for your experience. Clients who met their spouse from a car accident.
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny how the universe works. I've had somebody who they went to their mother at the hospital and they met their husband who happened to be a nurse there. If, so there's a lot of funny ways that this happens. So I don't judge anybody.
Sometimes can't fathom how the universe works.
Yeah, you don't. So I don't judge any way of how people create their dharma. And so one of the teachings, one of the three gifts, and Yeshua got these three gifts as well, for when he was born: wisdom teachings, energy healing. Thank you, Dr. Karan, for offering energy healing, and compassion. Because compassion is really essential so that you can, when you see somebody go through hard knocks and you're watching them, maybe from a distance, go through tough lessons that they have to go through in order to learn and grow from it, give them a little bit of compassion, because that's what they need, is a little support to get through that hard time.
Yeah, which is really, really different from being in a judgmental type of energy, which I've been there. So I'm not saying, that I'm free of that bias, but I do less and less of that now. But that of saying, well, you manifested that, so just stop manifesting it, right? Like there's a harsh, judgmental kind of energy that can come with the whole law of attraction.
The other way, that's another way to see that. Another way to see that in Buddhism is, okay, so let's say somebody's going through a hard knock, a really tough lesson, and they just haven't learned not to repeat the bad habit that's causing them the lesson. Another way to look at that is send them a lot of compassion and love. Yeah. I'm going to be here for you if you need somebody to talk to. I'll send you some care packets, but I'm not going to save you from your own destruction. I'm not going to enable you.
Yeah, enabling is so you need kind of an addiction in our society.
Enabling. So, and it's a case-by-case basis. I know I can already hear people in my head going, oh, what about this situation? And what about that situation? It's a case-by-case basis. But for the most part, if someone has a chronic way of creating imbalance in their life, they haven't learned and they do it over again. How many times have you had a girlfriend who keeps dating or marrying the same guy that beats her up?
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. And how many times are you going to save her from it, and then she goes right back into the same marriage with another person? She hasn't learned her lesson. So the hard thing is to give yourself compassion, to go, I love you, I'm going to let you fall. Yeah, so that you learn finally to stop going there. And then have compassion for her and say, I love you, I love me, I'm not going to enable you anymore, I'm not going to keep rescuing you, but I'm going to give you resources. Where you can go and so forth. And I'm going to give you compassion for the suffering that you're going through right now so that you can learn your lesson. And just pray that she learns her lesson so that she learns, this I don't need anymore. Instead, I want a healthy relationship. I finally learned.
Right. It's so tempting,
so compassion goes both ways.
To rescue, especially family members. Because we see them suffering, we don't want them suffering, so we're like throwing money at them, or trying to fix things, or whatever. Just realizing that's the same enabling energies and habits that we have for being a spouse of an alcoholic or a drug addict. And people, including myself, had a really hard time seeing that, because seeing people suffer is a really hard thing for me. So my tendency was to try to rescue them.
How did it work out for you?
I got drained. I got drained.
At the bottomless pit, kept on going, huh?
Yeah, no, did not work very well. And now, so it takes some discipline, really, is to, when people do ask for help and, Sometimes I have to say no in the way that they want me to help them, which is basically rescuing. And then I explain, which is difficult because it's literally faster for me just to do a quick mini healing or whatever, on my loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes longer and more effort actually to say why I have to say no. But for the most part, they've understood, that, oh, okay, because I said, well, if I keep, it's like I can either give you the fish or teach you how to fish. So I think the latter is more important. And so this,
that's one of the most important lessons that Yeshua said.
Yeah, but
it's hard.
It's
a
not the right
scenario.
Thing to ask for me.
Yeah, it might sound callous, but it's not callous. Yeah. It's not callous, and I want everybody to understand this. And especially if you're going to go into advanced studies in Buddhism, the wisdom teachings are that the different master teachers teach are so critical to how you create your dharma, because in the philosophy, people are creating the experiences that they have to go through in order to learn and grow from it. Because as we get into these higher dimensions and our awareness grows into these higher realities, like the fifth dimensional awareness, we're going to create faster, easier anything that we focus on.
Yeah,
so if you're creating out of, it's true. And so if you are, because after 2012, when the Earth completed her 29,520 year procession.
Yeah, 25,000. Yeah. So we, it's just, and that's basically off the Vedas. But we waited a long time to do that, and then we changed over to 2012, and that was the official date of closing the cycle of polarity. Then after that, it was choose your own adventure. So you can create your dharma with third dimensional awareness, kind of slow go, fourth dimensional awareness, like, in a linear fashion, A to B to C, I'm going to get the job, then we get the promotion, then I'm going to, whatever. So linear. Okay. Or if you're ready for the higher energies that are coming in much, much faster, you can be fifth dimensional awareness. And since everything is created simultaneously and exists right now, you can start skipping and zigzagging around. And so a lot of people in this awareness will just like, how'd you get there so fast? They'll just zigzag around to the fastest point to get to the experience that they want next. And things create so much faster. Now, here's the thing. If you haven't learned to create your dharma in a healthy fashion, and you're creating faster and with much these higher awarenesses, and you're creating chaos in your life, do you want more of that? Right.
That's the lesson. That's the lesson Buddhists has been trying to teach everybody for a while, is learn to create your dharma in a constructive, healthy manner. Learn why you create the chaos in your life so you know not to create that. Because when you get into the higher dimensions of awareness, you will create what you are faster. And it's going to be hell for you. And that hell every day is going to cause people to either find a modality, seek solutions, or, it's going to be a dire outcome for them because they can't handle it. They don't know how to create in these higher realities.
Right.
So there's many modalities out there.
Oh my gosh, so many. And I mean, not that
I would say wonderful stuff.
In my in my friend's face, I'm thinking of somebody in particular. But I, it's there. Like, I almost want to say, I wouldn't be necessarily very compassionate, but I'm just going to share it with you right now. What I stop myself from saying is I just want to sometimes look at her in the eye and go, "Are you done yet? Are you done suffering?" Because if you're done, we can, let me help you. Let's do something different, right? Because it's like, oh, this happened to me, and then that happened to me, and this people did this bad thing to me, and then this, anyway. I get it. It's awful and not definitely what I would want to suffer and go through, but it's this positioning of how much is the universe going to make me suffer? And so, yeah, so I've I didn't spit out of my mouth, but my, at the time I was like, are you done yet? Like, when you're ready to be done, then call me. Like, let's do this. Right?
Yeah. Well, the question I would ask is, for somebody like that is, why do you not think you are enough for unlimited love? What is it about how you see yourself that you continue to find new ways to punish yourself and suffer? Why do you deserve all this suffering?
Yeah.
Because some people they're gonna suffer if they have cancer. They're gonna suffer if they get into a car accident. But it's the unnecessary suffering that is questionable. Like choosing to put yourself into a situation that you know is bad for you and it's not going to have a good outcome, and doing it over and over again like a chronic addict to drama.
Yeah.
At that point, these people have to ask, like you said, are you done with the suffering? Like, how much more do you want to punish yourself? Why do you not love yourself? Let's rewind time and go all the way back through your childhood, all the way back through your upbringing, all the way back to, and let's see all the different ways in which you learn this behavior. And let it go. Let it go.
Yes.
You don't need to suffer. No one needs to suffer.
Is there a saying, I don't know if it's Buddhist, it says something like, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional?
Yes, the Dalai Lama, Gyatso, Tenzin, he said that.
Okay. What's the exact quote? Because I'm just paraphrasing here. Was that it?
That's pretty much it, yeah. That's pretty much it.
Okay.
The Dalai Lama said that, suffering is optional.
Yeah, because it's like things happen and they happen, but what we think about what happens can cause us suffering. Our opinions about it, our judgments about it.
Right. Okay. Right. And there's a difference between suffering and pain. Pain is the physical pain your body feels. Suffering is the trauma that your psyche feels. That's all consciousness.
Right. And someone here, I'm just feeling into the collective here, and no one's written out a question, but one of the questions that I've heard lots and lots and lots is, what about, this whole thing about co-creation, that yes, we're creating our dharma and our reality, but aren't other individuated people co-creating with us? Because, like, how much work do I have to do individually to manifest peace on earth? It seems like a daunting task if there's millions of other people doing something different.
Right. So the Buddhists would tell you that you are creating reality through your consciousness. And if you're waiting for the external reality to change for you, then you don't really believe that your consciousness has the ability to change reality. You're waiting for the exterior. What you're waiting for is when you look in the mirror, you're waiting for the reflection in the mirror to smile back at you. Whereas in reality, the only way the reflection in the mirror is going to smile back at you is if you smile at it. It's the same adage saying that you've heard over and over again. It's the same thing.
That's
so
great.
If you take responsibility, if you take responsibility for yourself and your life and the people around you and the things that you can affect, and everybody did that, it would drastically change overnight.
Yeah, I keep saying that as well. So that's my perspective.
Yeah. And the thing is that everybody has their own dharma to create, and it is. We are co-creating because it's more fun to play in the sandbox of other people than by yourself. But at the same time, in the sandbox, you still can dictate what's going on in your personal space with your toys in that sandbox. And then you can hang around with other people in that sandbox, just like, like moms that watch their kids play in the playground
Mm-hmm.
The kids that are playing a certain way will typically gravitate to other of similar frequency, and they'll play a certain way, and they'll just have a great old time. And so we naturally link up, like minds link up to each other and co-create naturally. So and you have to also look in the bigger picture too, because yes, you are having your own experience, and when you are sharing a reality with like-minded people, you are having a shared reality, per se, to a certain extent. But also, as you change your frequency, you're going to naturally experience an alternate reality that has different elements to it because you have shifted to a different perspective of reality. And there's different people and same parallel people in that reality as well. So we're constantly shifting. We're constantly shifting our perspective on the dharma depending on how we see it. And if you see that, like I said, we go back to the very basics, if you love them, you're going to let them go through their journey so they can learn and grow from it. And if they don't learn and grow from it and they get into these higher dimensional realities, they're going to create out of their own fears, and it's going to be hell for them every day. So if you love the people around you in your collective society, you're going to respect their journey and let them learn and grow from it, and just be responsible for what you can in your life and your inner circle.
Sage advice. So before we go into the next,
back to basics.
I love it. I know some people want to know more about sacred geometry and so-called parallel lives. And before we delve into that, I just want to share again your website. It's merkabachakras.com. And the book is Buddhist Mandalas, Explore Parallel Realities with Sacred Geometry. And Vaughn, maybe you can share where people can get a copy of your book.
Yeah, so you can just go to Amazon and just go ahead and type my name, Vaughn Galt, V-O-N, and then last name is Galt, G-A-L-T, and then you'll go and see my name, and you can click on the author's name, and it'll pull up my whole author's profile, and it'll show all my different books that I've created. I don't just write Buddhism books, but I do coloring books, vacation coloring books, just different things. I kind of run the gamut there of different things that I love. They're all my meditation. And but you can also go to my website, Merkaba Chakras, MERKABA Chakras, like your 7 chakras.com, and the links will be there as well. So really, really easy to find my books. The one thing I will say that when you read Buddhist Mandalas, Book 1, that one's all about sacred geometry so that you can understand that you are energy. All you are is your mandala. Lifetime after lifetime, you are your energy field. And you carry with you all the experiences and knowledge in that energy field and all your pains and suffering in that energy field. And so all we're doing is working on leveling up our energy field to get to higher and higher levels of consciousness, which is higher and higher levels of energy. And when we go through trauma or dense issues, we hold those densities in our energy field. And modern science is finding that out as well, that people are holding in their chakras, in their energy field, they're in dense issues. But when you address that and you heal that and you learn from it, that will no longer hold down your frequency.
So exciting. So great. I love that you've explained about that, and it's helpful for the science nerds in the group, myself included.
Oh, yeah, the science nerds. Yeah, I love yeah, it's so much fun. The real quick basic thing, and I want to say this about the Buddhist Mandalas book series. When you read book 1, it will rewire your consciousness to a 5th dimensional level. Okay? I've had a lot of people say that. To a 5th dimensional awareness. It will rewire your consciousness. Sacred geometry has a tendency to do that because the symbols have a lot of wisdom in the symbols. But I explained the science behind it. But basically, in short, in this book, the Sri Yantra, which is the symbol in Hinduism that they use to meditate, the Sri Yantra is the same exact thing. It's another way of looking at the sacred geometry patterns of your Merkaba, of your mandala. In Native American, they call it the whirling dog for the way in which their energy field whirls, so of the ascended masters or teachers. It's the same thing. And then they call it the yin yang because when you look down from the top view down to a mandala or a active Merkaba, that's the way the energy flows within your bubble. That's because everybody's just a big bubble of energy. And they've already proven this in science, and you can read that in the book. So everything is a sphere, people. It's not flat. It's a sphere. Okay? Sacred geometry, when you study sacred geometry, there's no way to get a flat anything. It's a sphere. Okay? That's how the energy flows. It needs to flow in a circle, a sphere. So that's how Yin Yang sees it. In science, 432 hertz is the frequency of a human being, which when they play that into a sand plate, it shows the image of a Sri Yantra. So nature is saying the same thing. So all of that, you can geek out all of that. Metatrons cube, or Ezekiel in the Bible, when he had his awakening and ascension, he saw a bunch of sacred symbols. And in seeing those sacred symbols, it kind of rewired his consciousness, and all of a sudden he was very wise and tuned into certain things about the universe. And that's why they call it Metatron's cube, because that's one of the things that he was known to teach is about sacred geometry. So I go into more of that, but all of these spiritual traditions and religions all over the world for as long as we know have been talking about the same thing, which is that we are energy. We are our mandalas. Lifetime after lifetime, you are your mandala. And we are having a human experience. So don't get caught up in the 3D form so much, because it's just the vessel in which you have your experience. These avatars that we are change lifetime after lifetime, but the energy field is the same. That's why many people marry the same, if they have a good relationship, they marry the same people because they recognize each other's energy. Same thing with soul groups. They recognize each other's energy. So, and then you have those funny synchronicities of how you met and how weird it's all so perfect because you recognize energies just attract each other. So, anyways, I go into that in my book a little bit, but that's basically it. So all these religions, doesn't matter what religion you are in or spiritual tradition you are that you were born into, they're all talking about the same thing. But what's happened over time is many people have gotten so caught up in terms and labels and factions and sects and everything else that they forgot the basic meaning, and they let their ego take over and split it all up. Now we're coming back. We're coming back into unity consciousness.
That's beautiful. Well, one of the questions that's come up, which I'd love for you to tackle, is, the flower of life. So this is a sacred geometrical pattern. There's many that come out of that, including Metatron's cube and the seed of life and the tree of life and all that kind of stuff. And so there is a thing going around the internet with various different teachers, if you will, that it is evil and that it is really the daisy of death, and it's a distortion of reality, and that you should not think it's beautiful. The flower of life, which, as you mentioned before, these sacred geometries are, spherical. They're not flat. So, would love your perceptions on that particular criticism. Yeah. Some people humans find such funny ways to self-punish themselves with the devil and hell. They always find new ways to think. If it's not the cabal, it's very creative.
So they're just so funny. But that's their journey. That's fine. Scientifically proven. The sacred geometry is the flower of life. The flower of life is sacred geometry. So if you take all of the portal points on Earth's grids, okay, all the intersecting points is where the portal points are, and you roll it out flat, it looks like the flower of life. Your energy field is the flower of life. Remember your bubble? Your bubble. And sacred geometry is the way that creation creates everything. And they've already proven this in science, that you are your mandala. And your mandala, if you roll it out in a two-dimensional form, looks like the flower of life. So what you are afraid of is you are afraid of your own infinity. Okay? So get over your fear of your own awakening and ascension and that you are divine. Get over your fear that you're more powerful than you give yourself credit.
Yeah, beautiful. That's so interesting. One of the things that, and by the way, for folks that are on the line, if you'd like to call in live and ask a question or comment, the number is 818-514-1190. Hit 1 so we know your hand's up. So 818-514-1190. And if you're live, you can also post it in the live chat as well. I've just put a little comments in there already for you. So one of the things, Vaughn, is that I've noticed, with energy healing and working with clients or students, is that they have a newer ability, it seems, and we talked a little bit at the very beginning about these six senses. They have the ability to actually feel or see or sense things happening in alternate realities, and some of these pleasant, some of these not so pleasant, but they seem to, at least the ones that I get to hear about, is the not so pleasant one. So whether that be so-called entities and other timelines interfering, or they can actually see or feel. Like I have one person that was like, I feel like a dog is jumping in my bed, right? And it was kind of odd. So I did my testing. I'm like, okay, let's see what it is. And that was actually true, that there was a dog jumping in their bed, but it wasn't an entity in this timeline, which is what they judged it to be. It was that there was a real dog in another timeline that they could feel jumping in their bed, so would love for you to address some of these alternate realities and clairs.
Yeah, that's fun. Those are fun. Okay, so so I'm going to fast forward to the people who are ready for the advanced stuff in Buddhism, because the last question you have about the people who are afraid of their infinity with the flower of life. Anyways, those are 3D people, and they're going to get their lessons, and they're going to work through it. Because remember, after 2012, it's choose your own reality. So if you want to be 3D, you can be 3D all you want. It's your lesson. It's for you to learn through. But some people are way beyond that. They're ready for being fifth dimensional awareness. And fifth dimensional awareness in these higher energies, like I said, is everything exists in the now moment. And so if you're in a fifth dimensional awareness in the now moment, what does that mean? That means you may have a sixth sense that you can sense and actually feel, maybe even see what happened in the past, what happened in the future, what happened in parallel. You're seeing it all. It's a sixth sense. So in Buddhism, like and in Hinduism, they have a lot of art history where they have the master teachers that have multiple heads, and Kuan Yin over 10,000 arms. She didn't have 10,000 arms in one body. She had 10,000 versions of her in multiple realities, giving compassion and grace to people who are going through their hard 3D lessons. Okay, so now you're being fifth dimensional. What's happened is, since 2012, as Earth is bringing in higher and higher frequencies, and she's going into further and further, we're in the early stages still, but she's going further and further into fifth dimensional awareness. Remember, everyone, I know you're having your life, but you are an aspect living on Earth. Earth, I've already proven this in my book, she has her own consciousness. You can look at the Schumann resonance to see. She has her own consciousness, and she is leveling up her consciousness from 3D up to more into the 5D and higher. And so she's brought everybody with her, whether you're ready or not. But she's so loving, she's giving you the opportunity to create your dharma any way you want, 3D, 4D, 5D, 7D, 8D, whatever. But she brought herself up. You, just like your cells in your body that's having its own little lives going on in itself, you are a part of her. Just like the atoms in your body are a part of you having their own little lives, okay? We're all one. We're all connected. So I hope that answers that question. Oh, wait, no, actually, real quick about that question. I wanted to say something else. As these energies go up, people are going to come into their sixth senses more. And in Buddhism, like all the master teachers like Yeshua and Kuan Yin and Buddha, they were fifth dimensional awareness already, and they were, getting higher in their awareness. But they were that in a lower dense time frame. They didn't have the help of Earth raising up all the energies. We, on the other hand, have the help of Earth raising her energies up to the 5D awareness. And so the energies and the tools are available to us if we know how to use it. And because of that, many people are getting awakened. They're loving up the energy easier. They're coming into sixth senses. We're pretty much getting a growth spurt. And we don't know that we're getting a growth spurt. And in ancient times, if somebody had a child or somebody had these sixth senses that would come up and they didn't know how to live with it, they didn't know the wisdom teachings of how to live with it, they would typically put them in a monastery and say, here, help my kid. They have an unusual sixth sense. I don't know how to help them. They don't know how to live with it in school or whatever, or in society. So they would put them in the monasteries, and the lamas and the nuns and so forth would help them hone in, learn to control, learn to use it effectively, learn to live with it. So it doesn't make you special. It just means that you had a growth spurt. So, like, let's say somebody all of a sudden shoots up a foot in a year as adolescent. They're going to stumble all over themselves and probably be a little bit dangerous to everybody around them, like a kid in a china shop, like, oh, my God, that's exactly what's happening. And so they don't realize they have this growth spurt, and so they have to learn their new body. They have to learn how to live with it, and they have to learn how to not use it to damage themselves or hurt themselves or others, or use it to manipulate others. That's where the wisdom teachings come in. Okay? Humanity is having a growth spurt, and some people are coming into this 5D, sixth senses, and they don't know how to do it. So I actually had a client that had this exact thing in hypnosis, where, he was sitting in his bed with his wife, and then all of a sudden he, looked over, and he can, with his third eye, see himself walking through, talking to his wife in the bathroom, and he's like, wait, I'm sitting here looking at my wife right here. What's going on? And he was sensing another version of himself in another reality having a completely different experience than what was happening right now. And the way in which you can, everything's, because I provide sixth sense consultations through my website as well for some people working with this. But the thing is that if you have the sixth sense and it's going to be stronger and stronger, you can choose to tune in either into the higher stuff or tune in into the lower stuff. People, it's easier to tune into the lower stuff because, we just naturally, like animals, go for the bad stuff just to know,
survival,
oh, that's bad,
stinks,
don't do
right?
it again. Yeah, it's survival. Yeah, it's survival. We have to retrain ourselves to not go to our guttural survival and retrain yourself to tune into the higher stuff. Okay, so that's where you have, like I said, growth spurt. You have to learn how to use your abilities constructively. The other thing that some people that have this is, since they are fifth dimensional awareness and becoming more, they can sense their past self. So in the case that you and I talked about in our past self, where we were having our suicide experience and going through it, if you sense yourself at that moment, you can send yourself assurance that you're going to get through this. It's okay. Sit on your hands, whatever. You can help yourself in that parallel moment because it all exists right now. So if you've ever been in an experience where you're sitting there in the bathroom, sitting on your hands, trying not to hurt yourself because you're going through a very traumatic event and possibly suicidal at that moment, and you all of a sudden just feel the sense of calm and love vibration come through your body, and maybe even hear a voice, a reassuring voice saying, it's okay, you'll get through this, you're stronger than this. That might be your fifth dimensional self in your near future telling your parallel self in the past that you're going to get through this.
I love that. Well, and actually my story was in the my first book, Guide to Healing Chronic Pain, it was I'm sobbing myself to sleep, suicidal, trying not to wake my then husband because I was just crying myself to sleep every night. And amidst all that sobbing, quiet sobbing, I heard a voice, and it was my voice, but it was like an angelic type voice that said, you have a choice, But it was very compassionate, not judgmental. And I'm like, no, I don't have a choice. What are you talking about, right? But it kept persisting. It's like, no, you do have a choice. But it was just very simple, very kind, very compassionate. And then I kind of thought, okay, well, if I have a choice, then what would I do, right? And that kind of sparked. So that might have been my future self talking to my former self.
Yeah, it's your fifth dimensional self talking to your parallel path self, trying to get you through that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, what about these people on that? Like there was Oprah had some guy, I can't remember the name of the movie, but this guy literally woke up, and he wasn't particularly spiritual or anything like that, but he woke up suddenly the next day able to see ghosts, aliens, demons, like all sorts of stuff. Freaked him out. They did a whole movie about him. I can't remember the name of the movie. So I think a lot of people, there's two trains of thought. One is that that's not fair. How come he has gift opening and I don't? And I've been working on the spiritual journey for a long time. And the other camp is sort of like, wait a second, he's not spiritual. So how did this happen?
Actually, I just had like, I live here in Seattle by the water, and there's actually a vortex close to my house, and a lot of the UFOs. I did a UFO interview with a UFO researcher, Preston Bennett. He wrote over 30 books on these, so he's really an expert on it. But the UFOs, they kind of glide and pop from different portal points on the Earth. Okay.
Yep.
And I had a client come in. Because she saw 30 UFOs, a fleet of them, go through right above her house is by the portal point right above, and her neighbors saw it as well.
Oh, really?
So two people sitting there counting, and they stopped after 30. But not everybody is seeing it because not everybody's fifth dimensional. So you have to be a higher frequency in order to see it. So if you're a low frequency and you're in your 3D issues and stuff, you're not going to see the higher reality that's happening right now. So anyways, so my client came in, and she's a medium, and she says, my angel sent me over to you because I need to know how to get to the next level. So I'm like, why do you want to get to the next level? And she said, because I keep seeing UFOs everywhere. And I'm like, all right, let's see what's going on. And we did the hypnosis, and she's a starseed. She's had other lifetimes as an alien being, and this is one of the few lifetimes that she's had as a human being. And the thing is that what I found over and over again with many of my hypnosis clients is they are starseeds who've had lifetimes as other alien beings, and they send one of theirs to incarnate because you have to incarnate into the human experience. It's like the prime directive. You can't just interfere. Source does not want you to interfere with the life plan that they have created for themselves as part of their creation of the dharma, because there's a greater, bigger picture going on. So anyway, so she comes in, we do it, she finds out, oh, I'm a starseed, okay. And one of the things that she has to do in order to raise her frequency is to deal with her 3D human dramas, the same ones that all of us have. And she was avoiding that because she was thinking of spiritual is just spiritual, but you don't have to deal. But the thing is everything is spiritual. Everything is spiritual. And the whole nature of reality is spiritual, and you're creating it from your consciousness. So if you are holding on to unresolved issues with your mom, your dad, your brother, whatever, it's still holding down your frequency. So if you address it and you learn from it and you forgive it and you let it go and you make amends of it, you not only feel better, but you lighten up your energy. And after the session, I don't make any guarantees. I just ask people's questions, okay, and I facilitate whatever modality they came in for the quantum healing. After the session, she had Reiki hands, and her hands was lighting up. She had Reiki hands.
Oh, okay.
Like Reiki. So her hands and her arms were lighting up. And she's like, why is my hands and my arms lighting up? I was like, well, you came in to see how you can level yourself up, right? So I guess Source gave you the ability to now have these healing hands. And then her third eye had a massive migraine, but only on her third eye, because so she was leveling herself up. And so, I said, just go home, put your hand under cold water or some ice. It'll cool off. It'll subside. But, they didn't tell you everything. I told you enough. And as you're ready, you'll get more information and you'll level yourself up. But what a lot of people want is they want all their 6 senses right now. And it will literally overload the circuit. You will literally overload yourself. People get 1 or 2 6 senses, and they need to learn to adjust to their growth spurt. Okay, and so, yep.
It's one of the reasons I wrote my book.
Yeah, exactly. We're learning our growth spurt. We're learning with each other as we go through it. So she is learning how to, and she's a nurse, which is wonderful. So everybody's going to get these healing hands all over the hospital. So that's wonderful. They're going to get the healing hands. She's incognito. So anyways, but I've had clients come in for the same thing. They're starseed. They never wanted to look at their 3D issues, but in these higher energies, it blew up in their face, and so now they're forced to deal with it. So they're like, I want to talk to Source and see what the heck is going on in my life. Why I thought I was over this stuff. And then it's found out that, no, you have yet to resolve that energy. Once they resolved it, she left channeling. And so now her challenge with her new 6th sense is to not channel in the middle of board meetings.
Right.
At work.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So be careful
like
what
not having
you
to on
for.
switch all the time.
Yeah. All of a sudden she started channeling in the middle of this massive board meeting with directors, and she's like, oh, my goodness. Learn how to control that. Learn how to control that. And so, if you're spiritual, you're going to raise your energy up doing different modalities of different things, whatever works for you. It's going to happen naturally anyways, because you're part of Earth's energy body, and she's raising herself up. So everybody gets a boost. But it's going to activate your 6 senses. And as you learn and grow with your new growth spurt, you're going to have to learn to live with it. So I had a client who came in, she's an empath, and all of a sudden, she was an empath for her life. She thought it was just fun and funny. Then all of a sudden, with the new energies, now all of a sudden she can't look at somebody's eyes without actually feeling all their pain and all their suffering as if it was her getting it. So now she can't look at people's eyes because it just hurts her too much. And then if she's in the middle of a major crowd of people, she feels everybody's issues. And so most people are projecting their dramas because they haven't learned to resolve the 3D issues. She's feeling everybody's issues as if they are herself. It's an overload. And so now she lives almost to herself in her house and keeps away from people because she doesn't know how to deal with it. So the thing for her is to learn how to have boundaries, set boundaries, and also learn to also not let it run, on its own, not be on autopilot reading everything.
Right.
So she needed to learn to. So she needed to learn to. And actually, I had an interview on my podcast with a 5D energy healer, and you can find it. And this was his exact when he came into his energy healing. This was the one thing he had this for 6 months straight, where it was just overload, sensory overload. He couldn't be in a crowd. He would feel everybody's thing, same thing. And he said it was just horrible. It was horrible. He prayed every day, please take it away, take it away, take it away. But he had to learn to adapt to it. And so there's different techniques to learn to adapt to that 6th sense. So I preface with people as we get, and some people think that some of these advanced studies in Buddhism are kind of like a little bit far out until it happens to them. And then they couldn't find somebody fast enough to get some help.
Well, they couldn't understand why this
Karen,
guy.
Your work is wonderful.
Well, they couldn't understand why this guy who is like Mr. like 3D would have that clairvoyance come up when he isn't on, quote unquote, the spiritual path, whereas they've wanted that degree. And I think I'm speaking for myself as well. In the past, is that spiritual envy, if you put it. So my husband, for example, can see shadows. And one time we actually cleared a an alternate life ghost of my dog because he was whimpering when he was sleeping at night. We didn't understand why because we had all these, I was doing healing, other people doing energy healing, but I could never catch any entities at all related to him until this one day where my husband just was going to tell him to shut up, from whimpering. He came out and he saw this black shadow, a small black shadow leaving his kennel. And he goes, oh my God, what was that? Right. And of course he asked me, what was that? Right. And I was like, I don't know, so I tested out and it was a ghost, but not this timeline. It was an alternate timeline of my dog's ghost. And so the ghost would visit him at night. And that's not when I would test him, right? Like I would test him whenever I was awake, right? And so after we cleared or healed his alternate self of whatever trauma that they went through, then he stopped whimpering at night. So some people have that spirit envy, like, well, how come my husband can see it and I can't? And I've been on the spiritual journey for longer.
Right. I would say this. Take it as a lesson, and instead of being envious, just be like, part of their life plan, for whatever reason, it's part of the life plan, and we don't know how it is going to necessarily roll out, but for whatever reason, it's part of the life plan. And so it'll be like two people creating a business, and one person has all the experience, all the know-how, and their business is not as successful as somebody who just kind of stumbled into a successful business. And you're like, why aren't you? Right? Yeah, it's the same exact thing. There's like business envy, like success envy. Like, why are you successful? Right. I'm the one that's been doing all this work. It's part of their life plan. Everybody has had different lives where they have been extremely successful and they have been not so successful. And for whatever reason, your life is playing out the way your life is. And just focus, again, like I keep saying, just focus on making your experience the best experience that you can, and let everybody else have their experience the way that they can.
Yeah, without judgment or,
because that's going to hold down your frequency, how you see the world.
Right. Our perceptions and how we judge what is going on holds down our frequency. Yep. Wow. Oh, gosh.
So back to basics.
Yep, back to basics. Vaughn, this has been an amazing interview. I've had so much fun. Thank
we
you
just
so
have
much.
wisdom teachings, really. So, you're welcome. It was fun for me, too. And, I want to leave your audience with one last thing that I always get from the higher self, the oversoul, and everybody, consciousness source, in my hypnosis sessions. And I put it into these couple words because it pretty much says the same thing. So what Source wants everybody to know is that you've always been enough. Use the gifts and resources all around you to create a life you want to experience, a life full of joy and love. The spirit world will nudge you through synchronicity. You can do it.
That is so beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Wow. Thank you so much, Vaughn. I want to make sure everyone has your website, merkabachakras.com, and then you can get a copy of the book. There's a link here right on the website, or you can get it on Amazon, Buddhist Mandalas, Explore Parallel Realities with Sacred Geometry. And again, thank you, Vaughn, so much for your time with us. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in as well. Until next time, lots of love.